Welcome back to Rural Live TV. Thanks to the wonderful people at TNR Pastoral. Well, if you've been watching Rural Live TV over the course of the last few weeks or even months, you'll know we've been covering rather closely the preventative measures being put in place and the way governments from South Australia, Victoria and other places right around the country have been dealing with or plan to deal with the locust plague, one that's being considered to be one of the worst in decades in South Australia and other places. Rob, it would seem to be the case now that spraying is underway in South Australia and the battle is well and truly on.
Yeah, and it will be on for a while now, but no, it's good to see it underway and a bit of fine weather ahead of us, so hopefully they'll get the first few hundred million killed very quickly.
Well, you're in a unique position, of course, having been through one of these and dealt with this kind of thing a bit before. They're starting spraying now in the Flinders Ranges.
Yep.
What are some of the early difficulties you imagine they're going to encounter?
Look, up there, I suppose the main thing is that when they go in and spray that most have hatched, there's a bit of a trade-off there, but that's a little bit out of their control.
Yeah.
But I've got no issue at all up there. I think that that will be successful in the north. I think more of the challenge at the moment is probably the riverland, where the hatchings are more spread out. They're more on the inside country. You've got the river, you've got orchards, you've got people living close to each other. I think that that's going to be a challenge which we probably didn't face in 2000 to anywhere near the extent that this one does. So it does make it more complicated and really throws some extra challenges into what we've had to face the last couple of times.
Well, it's been described in some quarters, Rob, as a plague of biblical proportions. I think back then they had Moses to deal with it. We've got Minister Michael O'Brien on the line, and he's the man charged with the lofty task here in South Australia. Minister, welcome to the program.
Welcome, and thanks for the biblical elevation.
Well, remains to be seen. We were speaking I was speaking to Rob just before. I'm not sure if you heard Minister talking about.
No, he's pretty well spot on.
The spraying underway in the Flinders Ranges. Can you give us a bit of an update? And is it still sort of local to that area, or where are we at currently with spraying?
Well, look, at this stage we are, but the indications are that within a matter of days we'll start spraying in the Riverland area. Look, if we have a warmish weekend, then I think that's going to bring on a lot of hatchings. It's reasonably weather dependent, but the projections were that next week we would have to commence spraying in the Murray-Mallee Riverland area, and I've heard nothing to indicate that has changed.
Okay.
As Rob said, a little more problematic in that this is the first time that we've actually had to deal with a locust plague in that area. Generally, if you could use war terms, it's been, in previous events, it's been a single front coming through the upper north through to the mid-north and dealt very much by aerial spraying. This time around, we're effectively fighting a battle on two fronts, and the first time that we've ever had to deal with an issue in the Riverland, and Rob identified that. And I think the other issue that we have, besides the fact that it's not something that has occurred before, is raising the level of awareness with broadacre farmers, but to an even greater extent the viticulturalists and horticulturalists within the Riverland community, and I think they're becoming aware now that if they don't assist in dealing with this issue, then all hell will break loose.
Yeah, it's certainly. The Riverland's going to be an interesting challenge. Both controlling what's there, and of course interstate, making sure, particularly New South Wales in their case, that they get on top of their own hatchings out in that big area of central western New South Wales where there's a lot of laying as well. No doubt you're reasonably confident. They seem to have the budget and the readiness over there as well. You're satisfied with that?
Yeah, look, I've had 2 meetings in Canberra with the Plague Locust Commission, which you quite rightly have identified as being the entity that should be dealing with cross-border incursions. This is federal government structure funded largely by the states, but responsible for basically preventing the flyovers from, say, New South Wales or Victoria into South Australia. And I did indicate to them that I wanted resources in that band that runs along the western New South Wales border, because the emphasis had been very much on more of the irrigated areas, which is understandable. I mean, that's where the big losses would occur if you didn't get on top of it pretty well immediately, and where the heavy concentration of egg laying has occurred. But the last thing that we want to do is have our situation under control, and then a matter of weeks later we have these, devastating fly-ins from particularly New South Wales or from Victoria. But I've got received assurances from the Victorian and New South Wales ministers and the Commonwealth that they'll do all that is required, and I've given a similar assurance as far as South Australia is concerned.
Yeah, well, it's good to see the state of preparedness and the fact, chemical aircraft are available. Certainly, there seems to be a lot of information in the Riverland about what they need to do. I suppose we just hope that New South Wales, Victoria really adopt the South Australian strategy from 2000 of getting out and spraying them before they actually hit the wing, because that's going to be really important. If they're chasing them through the air towards South Australia, then it's going to be incredibly difficult. And that's where your irrigated areas come under risk.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, once they take to wing, you've got to wait until they settle of an evening or morning, and that means incredibly close monitoring. And it's easy at the moment. We've got a reasonable idea of where the egg laying has occurred, and that's all been mapped out. So you just go and revisit the locations on that map, and also obviously pick up new locations. But when they become mobile, it's a real task trying to coordinate aircraft of a morning or of an evening to basically deal with the last report. And as you say, rightly so, when they're on the wing, they're so dispersed that it's just not economically viable to try and knock them out when they're airborne. So the next 6 weeks is going to be the make or break. I'm hoping they'll just be limited mopping up after the event, after they've taken wing, because when it becomes extremely problematic.
Yeah, well, we wish you all the best with that. I think it's going to be an enormous campaign, and this is where the departmental people really come to the fore. And for them, it's a hard task. A lot of them are away from home for weeks on end doing this, and long hours. But I'm sure that everyone's got a fair bit of faith that they'll be able to manage.
Yeah, look, what I've picked up in the field is that they believe that they've got everything in place. They've got the aircraft, they've got the people, and they've got the chemical. I went to Ororoo last week, and it's all set up on the airstrip. They've quarantined off the chemical holding area. They've got the aircraft on standby, and they've got teams running out from Ororoo doing on-the-ground checking, feeding back through GPS both the coordinates of the bands, the stage of Locust development, where they talk there's 6 stages, and we spray them at stage 2 and 3, indicating which stage they've reached, and also their density, so they know where they are by way of GPS, their density and their stage of development. That's fed back and ultimately goes to the aircraft for spraying. So it's a very, very methodical approach.
Yeah, I did make it sound a bit hard for the departmental people, but for some of those who sit behind a desk most of the year, to get out to Ororoo Hawker, get out in a quad bike for most of the day, I don't think it's they don't seem to mind it. It's quite an adventure for them.
Yeah. Look, I think they're revelling in it. It's good practical stuff, and they know they're making a difference. The mood is extremely positive, and one of let's deal with this. And I think there's a pretty strong sense that they will. And look, there's a lot depending on this, Rob, as you well know.
Yeah.
This is of vital importance to not only to the primary industry sector as a whole, to agribusiness, but for the economic health of the state. If we don't get this right, well, I think we're in a bit of strife.
Well, Minister, we appreciate your time, and no doubt we'll be checking in again with you as we get further along and be able to draw some conclusion as to how effective these measures have been. Minister, thanks for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Cheers, bye.
Minister Michael O'Brien there, Minister, of course, for Agriculture, Food and Fisheries. Might as well have had just Locust.